Vas-y.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for being with us this morning. My name is Karim Ludo. I'm the founder and CEO of Nucamp, and together with me is Ludo Fourage. He's
Hello,
the
everyone.
other founder and our chief learning officer, and he'll jump in a little bit to talk to you more about our curriculum and what it is to be a web developer. But to get us started, I want to introduce Nucamp. And so Nucamp is a relatively recent coding bootcamp. We're 3 years old. And what's special about us is our mission to really help all aspiring career shifters everywhere around the US to enter the digital economy. So we're really focused on giving anyone who has a strong desire to get into software development achieve his goals, his or her goals, not just people that have the right education background in technology or people who have already dabbled in programming. And the way we do that is by building a program from the ground up that is the most affordable, the most local, and the most flexible program out there in the US. So up to very recently, before Nucamp, you really had only two options if you wanted to learn to code. Either you went online and there's a lot of offerings out there, or you went to one of the traditional brick and mortar coding boot camps. Online coding boot camps are really flexible in terms of how to take the program. You do this at your own pace. You don't have any deadlines, so you really managing your own schedule. They're very low cost, which makes it easy to access, but it's really, really tough to complete an online program. It's hard to stay committed. It is very hard to overcome some of the obstacles that come up naturally when you learn to code. It's really, tough to rewire your brain to learn to code if you're on your own. So what we're seeing is a lot of people start with that, get some experience, but very quickly look for an alternative. And the alternatives up to recently were basically traditional boot camps, which are great if you can actually get into a full-time program, if you can afford the $12,000, which is the average price for those programs. And most importantly, if you actually live in a city where they're available, because a lot of these programs are not really available in smaller cities, in suburbs. They're mostly in big cities. And then finally, it's basically really tough to quit your job to go do that. A lot of our students tell us that really the biggest hurdle was to quit their job, quit having an income, getting on debt to actually go do that. And so Nucamp was really built from the ground up with basically a combination of some of the online benefits and some of the sort of traditional bootcamp structure. So our hybrid format allows you to continue to work while you're in the program. You're basically online during the week, and you do that at your own pace in the evenings, over lunch, whenever it's convenient for you. And then you are in person with your instructor in small group workshops on the weekend. And that way you have the support structure and the help from your instructor that is needed to succeed in learning the code. You also basically have a much more structured schedule that will keep you on track and make you successful. And with that hybrid model, what's incredible is we can achieve a price point of less than $2,000, which makes it a lot more affordable to basically have most people be able to do it. We also, and I'll talk a bit more about that, make sure to make it easier through a monthly plan. So it's really $350 per month, pretty much. So a little bit about our history. So we were founded in Washington State in 2017, and we grew first in Washington and then rolled out our program across the US. We currently have 1,500 students. Actually, we're closer to 1,700 today. And we've launched already 200 boot camps. We have probably about 50 to 60 that have already finished, and the other ones are just ongoing because we launch them every 5 weeks. About 150 instructors, and last Saturday we delivered 80 workshops to 600 simultaneous students across the US. So we have pretty much a strong experience in delivering in different cities, but also, as we'll talk about it, remote workshop, because that's also an offering that we've now made available since a few months. If you want to look us up on Course Report, you'll get a feel for what students have to say about our program, but it basically high satisfaction rating. And again, we keep working to improve that. So the offering itself, the boot camps we have, there are 3 of them. We have a beginner boot camp that's just a 4-week program. It is really about getting a feel for what coding is all about. It's for people that have no background at all, that perhaps don't know yet if coding is something for them, if they're ready to make a career out of it. And so in 4 weeks, you'll get some of the basics. You can't get a job after 4 weeks, but it'll basically allow you to see if that's something you enjoy, whether you feel you can commit to an advanced program, and basically, answer most of the questions you have around coding. And then we have 2 options for our advanced programs, which are really the programs that will get you ready to apply for a junior level web development position. We have our front-end program and our full stack program. Ludo will get into the details of the actual classes, but in a nutshell, they're 17 to 22 weeks. So they're, again, in the same format, and they cover most of what's needed to get a first job in the industry. The format itself is the same for all our boot camps, and it's a weekly rhythm. From Sunday to Friday, you work at your own pace, online, through video lectures, through exercises. You have quizzes, challenges. You also work on building your project portfolio. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. And you should expect to spend 1 to 3 hours per day working on your own, depending on your background and depending also what class you're in, because the classes get a little harder as we move into the advanced boot camps. What's important, though, is that you're not on your own. It's at your own pace, but you have the support of your instructor via chat, via email, as you go through those exercises. And if you're stuck, you have a way to basically ask for help and get ready for really what's the most important in the week, which is the workshop on Saturday morning. Our workshops are from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And the goal there is to recap the learnings of the week. Your instructor will go over the lessons learned, but also make sure to answer all of your questions. And then you really start to work on your assignment. It's basically a workshop that you have to complete, and you're building your project in those 4 hours. And then you can do that either in person, where in your community, if we have enough students to hold an in-person class, but you also have the option of doing this via video conference. And again, it's a very similar format in both cases. Your instructor doesn't change through a full class of 4 to 5 weeks, but you will go through perhaps several instructors as you move from class to class. And so at the end of the week, once you're done with the workshop, you move to the next week, and that way you make sure to keep moving, to stay on track, and you have a fixed schedule to make sure you complete your boot camp in those 17 to 22 weeks. I want to talk a little bit about our workshop locations, because they're an important part of our model. On Saturday mornings, what we do is we hold our workshops in co-working spaces that align with our social mission, that are hosting other developers, places that basically will get you to perhaps start to network with your local software development community. We also try to pick places that are simply nice to be in on a Saturday morning, because again, you're giving up 4 or 5 hours of your weekend. And so we want to make sure you have a good setting to learn. In Seattle, for example, this is an impact hub, but we have many other cool co-working spaces across the country where we hold our workshops. And then the other absolutely key piece of our model, what's really unique, is our instructors. We have an awesome group of instructors, over 150 of them. They come from all different backgrounds, but they have a few things in common that I want to highlight. First and foremost, they're what we call active industry practitioners. So they are not professional teachers. They are actually working in the industry. They have software development roles, either in big companies or they're independent consultants, but they're active in the workplace. And that's really important as they teach you how to code. They will teach you how to code with a really sort of practical, hands-on approach, and they'll be able to answer some of the questions around, well, how does that actually, work in the real world? How would you do this when you're at your full-time job? The second key thing is that they're really passionate and excited to give back. Teaching at Nucamp is not their full-time job. They have a full-time job. So they're taking some additional time in their busy schedule to come and do that in addition to their primary role. And they really do it because they want to just share their passion for coding. We compensate them, but it's not a really high pay. Again, we want to be affordable to our students. So once again, we get the people that are really caring about students and want to get more people into coding. And then they're local, right? So whether they have roles in big companies, small companies, they're independent consultants, they're all local to your community. That's really important too, because at the end of the day, when you get closer to the end of the boot camp, it's all about networking and finding job opportunities where you live. And so they're very helpful in that regard. And then finally, I mentioned it, the diversity of backgrounds in our instructor group is really something that you can take advantage of, because you can see, what different types of roles you can find in the industry. You may have one class with, a senior developer from a large company, and then another class with someone who is an independent consultant, and they'll talk to you about what they do, the kind of roles they have, and hopefully that will help you start to form an idea of what you'd like to do after your bootcamp. All right, so with that, I will turn it over to Ludo to tell you a little bit more about what it is to be a web developer.
Thank you, thank you. So I'm going to talk to you about the curriculum in a little bit more details, and really starting with, at the end of the day, you will want to follow our bootcamp and our curriculum because ultimately you want to get into a different career. And so let me just tell you about what it takes to become a web developer and what's the #1 path to get there. So JavaScript is the programming language that we teach. And we teach that language because it has been actually the #1 programming language for over 5 years in a row. And it's really the language that has the most demand in the industry right now. You will, of course, find that other languages like Python or PHP are also getting traction. But really, we bet on JavaScript, like actually many other bootcamps, because we believe that wherever you live in the US, you'll actually have a great chance of landing a job there. Now, let me just tell you very quickly what we mean by landing a job. We really intend to train you and make you ready for a junior web development position. And the word junior is very important here. It's going to be for many of you a new skill that you will still actually develop even after your bootcamp. And so that's how we will really help you find the right fit in a company or a startup or launching your career as a freelance as well. But really thinking about it as really starting your junior development journey. So the curriculum itself, you got a preview from Karim where we show you the first 4 weeks bootcamp, which is very much the first course in our curriculum. And as you can see here, our full curriculum really is a succession of 5 different courses. These 5 different courses, especially the last 4, I will say, are getting you ready for a job to become either what we call a front-end web developer or a full-stack web developer. You will want to start with the first 4 weeks course or the first 4 weeks bootcamp if you're a beginner and you actually do not have the minimum skills to start your enrollment into the front end or the full stack bootcamp. So you would want to start there. Now we have a test available on our website, which will help you figure out if you have enough skills to register directly to the front standard of Full Stack Bootcamp. So the first 4 weeks is not a requirement. You can actually skip it as long as you pass the test, and you can find the information on our website. Now, let me dive into really what is in the front end and full stack bootcamps. And we start with the framework, the JavaScript framework called Bootstrap. Bootstrap was actually developed 5 to 6 years ago by Twitter. And it's meant to help you design what we call responsive websites. And you may actually wonder, what does that mean? Well, it's pretty simple to understand. A responsive website is a website that will adjust to the size of the screen where you're actually loading it. So it could be on a big screen, like a projector, 160 inches type of thing, and it will expand to the full scale of the screen. But then dynamically, it will also shrink down to, let's say, a 40-inch computer desktop to a laptop, and then it will shrink and reorganize the content as well. If you're looking at that screen at that website on the phone, that's what responsive means. It's responding to the size of the screen, and it allows you to do that just writing the code once. So you don't have to worry too much about, rearranging everything yourself. The Bootstrap framework does that for you. It's a great way to get started because it's actually quite fun to see how easy it is. It's a 5 weeks course. What it's going to show you as well is how ultimately also limited Bootstrap is in really allowing you to do things that are more dynamic with, I would say, data. So what do I mean by that? Well, data is about, and processes, I would say. How are you going to allow users to log onto your website? How are you going to allow the website to display, let's say, a catalog of product dynamically with prices that change every day, for example? How will users write on your website, for example, if it's a chat type of website? How will they add products to the cart? How will they check out? All of those things that are very dynamic and respond, I would say, to business rules is what React, the next module, is about. React was developed by Facebook 3 to 4 years ago, and it's really the capstone moment, I would say, in your journey. This is where you're going to really go deep into programming using data, implementing business processes. This is the most challenging moment in your experience, and also, obviously, the most rewarding once you get through it. Now, once you've done React, you're going to do something very special, which is you're going to take everything you just worked on, meaning the website that you've built, and you're going to package it like if you were zipping it in a way, and turn it an actual mobile application. And by mobile application, I do mean creating an app that you're going to be able to publish to the Google Play Store or the Apple Store, and people will be able to download the app, and you're going to be able to monetize that. And this is kind of where the magic happens, because you really have done that following the path of first building a website and then turning that website into an app. And users will have no clue. They will just think it's an app, and it's going to be accessing the camera, the GPS tracking, the accelerometer. You could actually use your website/app to make phone calls. I mean, that's really going to be very also rewarding to be able to do that. Once you finish React Native, you will have actually finished the front-end aspect of our bootcamp, meaning you will have learned everything you need to know to build customer experiences, be them on the web, purely on the web, via access that you will access via a laptop, a tablet, or whatever. And you will also have learned how to build mobile experiences using mobile apps. If you want to continue, you will actually be part of the full stack bootcamp. And really what it does is adding what we call the server-side knowledge. That website is going to be great. That mobile app is going to be fantastic, but it's going to need a place to store the data. It's going to need a place to store the products, store the prices, store your customers' profiles, what's their name, what's their emails. So all of that is going to have to be somewhere, and that's going to be the server side. And for that, we are teaching the number one, I would say, backend right now, which is Node.js, Express, and MongoDB. MongoDB is the database engine that is extremely scalable, and so you'll learn all that. So once you do all 4 modules, you'll be a full stack web developer, web and mobile developer, and that will have been after 22 weeks, experience. Now, what's really important and what you'll hear hiring manager talk about, former graduates, anyone in the industry will tell you what matters is the skills that you acquire and how you can showcase those skills. And so throughout the journey, we're going to really help you build what we call portfolio projects. And we're going to do that in many ways. It's going to be first using what we call a learning project, which is the one that every student is going to go through throughout the 22 weeks. And you're going to improve that project every week. And then you're going to create your own project. You're going to create a project either on your own or as a group. And you're going to build your own project starting right with the first course, Bootstrap. So you're going to build your own responsive website. Of course, you're going to be inspired by the learning project. So you're going to kind of mimic what you're doing in the learning project and build your own. And then we're going to challenge you to take that Bootstrap project and add all the dynamic component to it with React. And then we're going to challenge you again to do that with React Native and turn your website, your own project, into a mobile app. And then we're going to challenge you again to add the backend element of it. So you're going to have all the data on the server or in the cloud. And what's really rewarding for students is after 22 weeks, realizing that what they've accomplished is really something that they could actually start to monetize. They could actually publish on the web, is solid. It's not just a series of tutorials that don't connect with one another. It's actually a project that you've improved week over week over a period of 22 weeks that has a lot of breadth and a lot of depth. So very, very good. All right. And by the way, we're plenty of questions here. This is really awesome. We'll get to that in about like 7 minutes. So stick with us. This is really great to see. We'll get to that with Karim in about a minute. This is our bootcamp schedule. We have upcoming on March 2nd, the next cohort for the full stack and front-end bootcamp. What you should know about this is the price is still in the early bird rate, meaning it's still $1,300 for front-end, $1,700 something for full stack. But that will change on February 17th. So the price for the full stack and the front end will go up slightly. I think it's like $300 more, but you want to avoid that, obviously, if you are decided to join. So register before that early bird deadline, which is February 17th. Or if you're not quite sure yet, know that the next cohort will start just a month later, April 6th. And the way to think about the early bird rate, it's ending 2 weeks before the beginning of the bootcamp. So whatever you do, you probably want to register 2 weeks before the start date, so that you have access to the less expensive, I would say, rate. And you can, if you actually want to start with the beginners bootcamp because you don't have the fundamentals, then you will start on March 9, and you'll be able to continue on right after that on April 6. And by the way, this view you'll find on your community webpage. So if you go to our website, you look for your community, your city, and you'll find that, and you'll be able to register there. All right, so we've said a lot, but we always believe that it's better to hear it from our customers. So what we would like to invite you to do is kind of watch with us a 1 minute and 30 seconds video of Geneva from Everett, and then we'll get back into our Q&A, where we'll start to actually answer all your questions here. So let's cue the video. Just give me a second here. All right, there we go.
I wanted to look at a career opportunity that would be lucrative. And Nucamp kind of popped up, and I liked it a lot more than the other ones. I liked that it was more flexible. I didn't have to like quit my current job.
They're basically very student-friendly.
And our instructor is awesome, Minay, and she's just really helpful, like really like above and beyond.
She's very helpful, and every time when I have a question, I can ask her and she can respond. The careers basically has no end. You can grow and grow.
I was really excited. Yeah, in fact, I mean, if anything, I was like wanting to do more.
But I really like the way it's been this hybrid learning process.
I love that. I love that it's during the week, because I wouldn't have been able to do it if I had to meet every single day. So I love that I can find childcare on Saturdays, and the rest of the week it's online. But yeah, sometimes I'm like doing my homework and I get all excited. I'm like, this could be my life. So it's kind of cool.
All right, we're back. You can actually find more information about our alumni, past students. We mentioned Course Report. It's a great source of information. You can also go to LinkedIn to check out our alumni there. A few examples here. Aaron Goodram was one of our first students, used to be a truck driver, and is now a software engineer, quality engineer, as well as actually an instructor with us. Lindsay Gelapsi studied with us in Tacoma and then moved to Dallas to get a job there as a technician, integration technician in a software company, and more examples like that you can find online. All right, I think we are ready to go.
Yeah, we are.
Awesome. So let's stop the sharing.
Yeah,
Screen sharing. And,
so we got a lot of questions, which is awesome. I'm going to try to go through them in order, and then we'll group some of them that are sort of similar. Let's start with payment options, because that's one question from CL. So it's a really, really simple model. The introductory bootcamp, the 4-week bootcamp, it's a one-time payment, $349 early bird price. So that's easy. And then for all the other bootcamps, it is basically a payment plan. And so the front end and the full stack, it's either 4 or 5 payments, and we actually break it down to be close to 350 at each payment to make it more manageable. So that's basically all you need to know about our payment options there. A question about our success rate, our graduation rate. That's a really good question. So again, we want to be completely transparent with you. Our graduation rate is around 70%. That's what we typically see for the advanced boot camps. And again, it's probably a little lower than what you would see in a traditional boot camp, which kind of makes sense, right? Because you're not quitting your job to go into a full-time program where you're sitting all day in class. You actually have to manage this program at the same time you're working another job, have different sort of constraints. And so what we're seeing is that some people make it entirely through, and some people, for various reasons, personal reasons, work reasons. In many cases, we get students that tell us, hey, you know what? I just got promoted. I just took on another project. I can't do it now. So they basically either stop or they pause, because we also offer that flexibility to basically put your program on a pause button and then restart it 2 months, 3 months, 4 months later. Since we have a start every 5 weeks, it's pretty easy for us to do that. So that's basically typically what we see. Again, in terms of basically job placement, that's a really tough one, just because of the nature of our program. Contrary to traditional boot camps, our students don't come out of the boot camp without a job, looking for a job. They're usually already employed, and what they're looking for is to improve their career and switch, and that oftentimes takes time. And so typically, if we take the example of Aaron, He didn't land his job just after finishing the boot camp. What he did is he actually transferred to be a short haul commercial driver. So he had more time to continue to work on actually finding a job. He continued to do some independent work to perfect his portfolio, and then he landed his job 6 months later. And so again, everybody's in a different position, but that's one of the reasons why we don't have very specific stats. But what we will say is, if you go through the boot camp, you put in the effort, you put in the time, you definitely will have the skills to get an entry-level position. And I want to maybe spend a minute on with Ludo here, making it clear, what is the expectation you should have for a job out of this bootcamp?
Yeah, no, we want to make it very clear to our graduates that they should focus their energy on finding a junior web developer position, and try to not get your hopes too high in trying to land a job at, let's say, Microsoft or Amazon or Google or Facebook. We realize that's kind of the appeal that is out there. It's kind of the dream situation where, you go through a 22 weeks boot camp and you're going to join one of those prestigious company, but it's just not realistic. And so we don't want to actually lead our students that way. We know there are a huge amount of jobs, actually more jobs out there in traditional companies, in your local small business who needs a new website, in a startup ecosystem, people who are going to be willing to make a bet on a junior developer, or just really traditional companies. You probably have heard that any company nowadays is turning into a digital company. They all are looking for developers. And by the way, they can't compete with the Microsoft and Amazon and Google for the top 1% of software engineers. So they look for people just like our students who are graduating. We get emails every week with people sending us job opportunities saying, hey, we want to work with you. We want to meet your graduates. So that's really something that's very important to us. We know there's a lot of hype in the industry around, hey, do our bootcamp and you'll join Microsoft or you'll join Google. We don't want to actually promise that, because we don't believe it's a fair promise to make.
So I think the way to think about it is your journey doesn't stop when you finish your bootcamp. You will land, a first job, and then from there, it's a new career. So you can definitely have aspirations to join one of these big companies, but it'll probably take you 2 to 3 to 4 years of developing your experience, getting to a more senior level web development position down the road, and then perhaps move into another company. What you'll learn through coding is that indeed, it's all about constant learning. So you learn during the boot camp, but once you start to work, it's one of those sort of professional areas where part of the job is learning something new every day. And so that will keep you improving and perhaps continue to develop your career. I want to maybe just jump on Matt's question here for you, Ludo, about the programs we use, and is there a cost associated to that?
Great. So there's no cost associated with anything that we do in our bootcamp. So the price that you see on our website is the final price, no additional cost whatsoever. Sometimes parking for Saturday mornings, I will say. We have our own learning management environment. So all our lectures, exercises are actually hosted on our own learning management environment. We do use third-party solutions sometimes, like CodePen, if you heard about it, is a great environment to do code challenges. But otherwise, we used the open source and standard tools for coding in JavaScript. So that's Visual Studio Code as your editor, Git, NPM or Yarn to actually download the packages. If you don't know what that is, that's fine. We'll tell you what it is. We'll teach you that. Node.js, all those tools are actually open source, and we use them in our bootcamp.
Okay, so we have a lot of questions about specific communities. Questions, are the meetings at Impact Hub in Seattle? The answer is yes. Questions around Los Angeles, I think Tampa, Washington, D.C., Minneapolis. So let me just wrap this into a few key points here. First, we have cities where we deliver our workshops in person. Seattle is one, Minneapolis is another one. And then we have cities where we don't have enough demand, and therefore, for the time being, we're still delivering our workshops on Saturday mornings via video conference. And to know that, you just need to go to the website. So if you pick Minneapolis, for example, you go there, you will see, and to get there, by the way, click on My Community or on the specific city you're in. You can change the city if you need to. And then if you scroll down, you will see the location that we are using as a workshop in that particular city. Or you will see a little tag on the schedule that says remote workshop, which indicates that this is not an in-presence delivery, but it's going to be a video conference. You also have other information that I see questions around who's the instructor. So if you go to Minneapolis, for example, you'll see Cody Shanner, for example, is one of our instructors. We actually know Cody fairly well. He's been our instructor now for probably a year or so. He's delivered at least 5 or 6 classes, has had great student ratings, and is actually a good example of someone who went through a coding bootcamp and then went on to be an independent consultant and so delivering projects for his customers. And so he is, in addition to that, teaching with Nucamp. This brings up also just another point we didn't mention is our instructors are all rated by our students on a weekly basis. So we get a really good feel for who's doing a great job with our students. We get feedback from the students, not just ratings, but also sort of verbal comments. And then we work with our instructors and we work with our students to make sure we always have great instructors, but we also improve the curriculum. We also improve the overall experience for our students. Next question, what we have here. Let's see, more questions about Seattle. So again, questions around the profiles of the instructors. You will have those on each community page. The question, I wanted to mention also, typically when we get to 6 students or more in a city is when we're able to start to deliver in person. And it's just to cover our costs, basically. That's where we need to get. So I see that Giovanni's trying to get some friends to jump in. So that will give you an idea of how many friends we need there. And then let's see.
So question from Valerie about age. We get that one pretty often. I'm 48, so I beat you. It's really not about the age, it's about your skills. And so if you can put yourself into it, if you're coming to coding later in your career and you've never coded before, you will really want to check that that's something that you like, that you enjoy. Some people actually are 40, 50, and they're coming back to coding after taking a break, like myself included. I took an 18 years break from coding and then got back into it. But yeah, it's really not about your age. It's about how much you're going to be able to perform as a coder. And do you like it? Are you going to be able to put yourself into it the way you should be? And sometimes when you're getting older, you're like, you know what, that's not for me. I won't even try it. I've tested it and that'll be fine as well.
Yeah, so Mark's just a little older as well. Again, there's no age limit. I think really Ludo made the point. It's whether you like it or not, and that's why we have this 4-week boot camp.
Yeah.
After 4 weeks, you'll know if you're enjoying it or not. If you're not enjoying it after 4 weeks, there's no way you can make a career out of it, because it is something you'll be spending hours and hours every day. So, but we see people who have zero background. Who probably have a hard time sometimes the first few weeks, but by week 4 they're like, it's hard, but I enjoy it. I'm excited. Actually, Geneva was really in that camp.
Yeah.
She had zero background, and it was hard for her, but she enjoyed it, and she was successful going through the boot camp.
Quick question from Christy on the MacBook Pro, and would it be okay? Yes, it will. Actually, our curriculum is providing instructions for both Windows laptop and Mac OS laptops. What we will say we do not recommend, actually won't support, is a Chromebook. So you don't want really have a Chromebook for the bootcamp, but Mac and PC Windows will work. You want me to take
So-
the Lizzie one, or
Yeah, Lizzie, a quick one. That's for you, actually. Quick on what we
Third
cover
part.
and what we don't.
So which one are you in? The third-party libraries?
Yes.
Yeah, great. So we touched briefly on jQuery, but as you may know, actually jQuery is kind of kind of being deprecated by some programming frameworks. Bootstrap, for example, is going through a huge revision to just remove jQuery altogether. We do less. We used to do Angular. Actually, we do Sass, not less, sorry. Used to cover Angular, but now we're just focusing on React and React Native. You've seen me, you heard me talk about Node, Node.js, MongoDB. We will coach you on doing prototyping and design, but make no mistake, our curriculum is not a UI UX curriculum. So we touch on it, but we don't go too deep into it. Really, we're focusing on the coding aspect, not as much on the designing experiences aspect.
I think what I would like to add is that our curriculum, we constantly revise it. Actually, that's one of the richness of our instructor community. They're plugged into the industry, so they're constantly coming to us and telling us, hey, you know what? This is what we're seeing in terms of demand in the market. You should start to, you know, focus more on this stack or this stack. So, you know, again, the stacks we teach are going to be pretty well aligned with the job market, and we'll continue to improve them. But at the end of the day, you know, as we mentioned earlier, you're going to be learning more stuff. By the time you go through the bootcamp, there'll be new stuff anyway to start to learn.
Kevin Nam, who says that he recently went to a job interview and was asked to build a landing page without any library. That's a good one. It's absolutely. And so guess what? Our first bootcamp, the 4 weeks bootcamp, uses no libraries whatsoever. It's pure HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And on the 4th week of that program, we teach you how to update the page dynamically, just like jQuery will do, but without any jQuery. So that's where we start. We start by teaching the fundamentals of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And then we introduce Bootstrap and the other libraries and frameworks. But you're right, it's super important to understand those fundamentals first, and then going into levels of abstraction, I will say, and things that make it more productive.
So I also saw a discussion on, you know, whether Bootstrap is still, you know, current. Maybe park this one for a little bit, but typically in the Bootstrap class, there's not only Bootstrap, there's more to it. And it's really about building for the next class, which indeed is React, which is probably our biggest and most important class. So definitely working on the curriculum to cover some of the new stuff too, as seen you're mentioning.
Absolutely. And the latest version of Bootstrap is using Flexbox. So yeah, once you know Bootstrap, you know Flexbox, and vice versa. I think it's
so anyway, getting it a little bit into the weeds here. So just again, you know, moving to, you know, generally speaking, our curriculum. So we do develop our curriculum ourselves. We started off early days with some third-party curriculum that was out there, publicly available, and it was pretty decent, but we definitely improved it quite a bit. So we've reworked it and built it from the ground up. With the learnings we had. And to give you a sense, we currently have a rating of 4.5 out of 5 on just the curriculum itself. So that's from our students. So we're in a good spot, and we definitely continue to rework. So we're actually going through small iterations here to improve our 4-week boot camp, as well as some of the advanced classes.
So quick question from Katerina. You cannot do the 22 weeks bootcamp faster than 22 weeks. We really ask that you progress along with your cohorts, with other students, so that you can collaborate at the same pace. Justin is asking about what's the reality of 2 hours per day, especially with React, and you're spot on.
Yeah.
It's more when you're in React, definitely. I will say a 4-hour a day is probably what you want to put in, and then the 4-hour on Saturday, and then forget about your Sundays. You're going to be working as well and learning as well. So yeah, the React portion is more than 2 hours a day, definitely.
React is actually a almost 5.5 week course, and it's a tough one. But the good news is it comes as, you know, the rhythm builds up. So you'll have gone through potentially the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript class, then the Bootstrap, then moving on to React, and then you have a little bit of a break with React Native.
Okay.
Oh, so
quick question, Justin, is YouTube still the platform? So we produce our own videos, but we publish them on YouTube for streaming. So I guess, yeah, so that we know that the videos are going to be served anywhere where you are, but it's our content.
All right.
You receive a certificate at the end of each class, actually, and then a certificate at the end of each bootcamp. And for the front-end bootcamp and the full-stack bootcamp, we also give you access to the owner certificate, which requires students to go the extra mile and actually showcase their project, talk about their project and things like that. So you actually have the regular certificate and the certificate with honors.
A question from Katarina about the portfolio. You know, do the students do it? Is it our own portfolio? Maybe a word about that.
So you start your own project portfolio, right? I think it's the second week of Bootstrap, and it's going to follow the progression that you're going to go through throughout the week. We offer you suggestions. So we have actually 3 typical projects that we present to you, and you can decide to just do those. But we also encourage you to think about your own needs or your own ideas. And then we ask you to share that with your classmates, because ultimately we want you to group yourself in groups of 2 or 3 or 4 and work on that project together. So you're going to select an idea or several ideas, broadcast that to your group, and then you'll see who wants to actually come together to work on a project.
Yeah, so the next few questions, Katarina, Lizzie, and Ahmed actually are asking a little bit more details about how it's working during the week, right? So, you know, and jump in here, but basically during the week, it's videos for sure. So, you know, getting the actual teaching, understanding the concepts with some presentations to support that. And then it's actual exercises that you're going to be going through. So you're going to be given instructions and asked to, you know, apply some of those learnings in your code, and then obviously test it to see how it works. And it'll go from, you know, very simple in the beginning. Yeah, use this code, maybe some copy paste to make it easier, to actually to the point where it's no longer that, it's just, you know, pure instructions. Hey, you got to do this, you got to do that, and then come up with that. And obviously you're also, you know, submitting those exercises to your instructors, and you're getting graded on them.
Quick question from Oscar. What happens when there's not enough students to start up the bootcamp?
Yeah, actually, so in most cities where we know we don't have a lot of demand, we will have by default a bootcamp in remote workshop mode, right? So in video conference mode. So so that's easy enough. In the cities where—
but that means it starts.
It starts no matter what.
Yeah.
So no matter what, even if there's only 2 students in that city, it will start, because the students will be grouped with another city, and then that will form a class via video conference. And we did that to avoid just, you know, pushing out a month and then another month if demand is not there. So that's basically what we do. We also make sure we keep the students in one city grouped together. So if you're like 4 or 5, we don't have enough for an in-presence class, you're still going to be in the same online class, and you'll have an opportunity, if you wish, to meet together, form your project together, you know, get to know each other, et cetera, et cetera. And then in some classes where there's bigger demand, usually the classes start because we've predicted there will be enough students. But in some cases, there might be a particular month where people don't feel like learning the code. So if we have less than 6 students, we will cancel the class and push it over to the following cycle, which is 5 weeks later. And in that case, as a student, you have several options. You can decide to just, you know, wait for another 5 weeks for the next start, or you can switch to online if you want to try that, or you can just drop out at no cost at all, which, by the way, brings me to a question on the cancellation policy. If you cancel before the start of the bootcamp, at this point in time, it's basically a full refund. So you don't incur any cost. And then there is actually a more sort of detailed cancellation policy. Once you start, it's basically a registration fee plus a percentage of how much you've accomplished, but you will, get a refund up to 50% of going through the bootcamp. You definitely get some form of refund.
Question from Jerry Williams about, does the curriculum introduces any agile Scrum methodology? Not at this time. And actually, that's a topic of conversation with our instructors. We actually have instructors who are mentioning that, introducing those concepts to students during the bootcamp. We don't have material in the bootcamp that introduces agile and Scrum, but we're actually thinking about adding that. It will be additional to your point. The idea is not to actually turn our students into Scrum masters, but something that we're considering indeed.
So there are a lot of questions about specific communities. So, apologies for that, but we can't go through each and every one of them. And in particular, we don't have them all, in mind. Once again, check the website. It's really straightforward. That second tab is your community. Change the community if it's set on the wrong one, and you'll have all the information about the dates, the instructors, the locations, everything is in there. All right. Would we cover hosting cloud or deployment strategies like AWS, etc.?
That will be in the last module. Node.js, Node and MongoDB will tell you the fundamentals of having a server environment, and then we'll actually show you how you can actually self-host or just go on the cloud and have that done there.
Question on help with interviews. So as part of the program, included in the price, you have a 6-week online sort of career support course, which will take you through the basics of cleaning up your resume, building your LinkedIn, networking skills, interviewing skills. So you'll definitely have some support there. In addition to that, you get a LinkedIn 1-month premium subscription. And then it's more about networking, right? So connecting with other students, with your instructors, starting to get plugged in. And so the community will definitely help you with that. We don't have career services per se, and that's part again of our affordability model. We want to focus on giving you the right skills. And so the interviewing part, that's something we'll help you a little bit with, but we don't have full-blown career services for it. What I want to say though is that landing a job as a web developer is something that's really all about your skills, or mostly about your skills. And so the most important piece in an interview is, coming prepared with the right skills, with your project portfolio, because you need to showcase what you're able to do. And that's really, 80% of the battle. Obviously you need some soft skills and ability to just, go through an interview. But it's not like an interview for a sales position where it's like 90% your soft skills, right? And so we really focus on the skill piece and go pretty deep there.
Question from Christy regarding taking one class again, if you feel behind or if it's really hard for the first time. Yes, you absolutely can. We have a retake policy, which actually is kind of the pause policy as well, where we offer you to pause your bootcamp. For $99, you can actually pause/retake the course that you just finished. And so you can do that in the middle of it or at the end of it.
And then let's see. So more questions also on, questions around laptops. I think we've covered most of that.
So in our FAQ, we have actually a list of specs for laptops. What you should know is any laptop will do until you get to React Native. Once you get to React Native, you're going to run a mobile phone emulator on your laptop. And that's when you're going to see if you can make it or not. So if you're planning to go through React Native, you should plan to have a proper laptop. The specs are online. Typically, if it's a PC laptop, $500 of a recent laptop will do. But yeah, check that and make sure that you'll be ready come React Native to run so many things on your laptop.
All right, so we're almost to the end here. So if you have a few more questions, go ahead and post them. I'm gonna just jump on one here about our structured and how you're accountable to move forward. Our weekly rhythm is really what drives you to finish, right? I mean, it's a pretty packed program. You'll have to put in the hours. You need to complete all your preparation work for Saturday, which in itself will keep you pretty busy. You know, if it's easy for you, we got plenty of additional resources that will keep you busy too. And so again, the way we make sure that, you know, you stay on track is with this preparation for the workshop. And then you've got to post your workshop assignment within a day or two. And that's a requirement to actually graduate. So we have the right mechanisms here to make sure you stay motivated.
So more questions, Ankit, about courses being available online. So you have lifetime access to our bootcamps and the content after you graduate. So you can go back anytime. Which code editor should you be using? We use Visual Studio Code, which is free and open source online. Bulgan, you can upgrade to full stack from front end at any time. So if you like front end and you're like at the end of native and you're like, oh, I really want to continue, just upgrade. You pay the difference and you can continue to full stack.
I think a question about the presenter, by the way, in our video. So that's actually Mine.
Oh yeah.
So she is one of our very first instructors, and she's really gifted in just video production. She's been doing that for a long time, and so she's actually doing most of the narration. And actually, the satisfaction rating on the course actually went up dramatically from our first version, which is a little more academic, I would say. We're actually working on providing a sort of a peek preview of the of her and the style of the videos, because we understand that that's also part of you know, the decision for you to join.
Good. I can't attend Saturdays. Is there a way to move it to Sundays? We can't at this time. We've actually tried Friday afternoons. We've evaluated all the time. Other days. Sunday is bad for many reasons. Saturday is also bad for other reasons. What you should know is if you can't attend one Saturday, the requirement for you is to publish your assignment. So you will not be able to work on your assignments with your instructor and students. And for one Saturday, that's okay, as long as you publish it so that you can be graded and that you can continue on.
So Ashraf, sorry if I'm missing that question on, you know, what's the rhythm during the week? During the week, there's no schedule. It's on your own online. So you look at the videos, do the exercises, all of that on your own at your pace, whenever you want to do it. We actually have a mobile app as well. So the platform is an integrated platform that you can go onto on a laptop, but you can also review your videos in the bus when you're commuting. So that's actually pretty convenient. And then of course, if you're stuck, you have your instructor that can support you. You'll chat with him either via the integrated platform. We also have a Slack platform for that. So that's basically the rhythm for the week. For the week.
And CL, yes, you can pay the down payment, the registration fee, and then we can switch it to have your employer pay, and we can also figure out a way to maybe reimburse you for the previous payment and then have your employer pay. So we can be creative in how you actually secure your seat.
All right, we're coming up on the hour here, so probably time to wrap up.
Yeah, that was a great Q&A. Lots of really interesting questions. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, so we have actually more questions answered in our Q&A online on our website. So don't hesitate to go there and just check it out. See if there are other things you can learn. We have also, we're available to answer any of your questions. Just shoot us an email at info@nucamp.co. We'll be happy to answer back. And then do not forget the early bird. That's the one message.
17th, next Monday.
Yeah, next Monday. We have every 5 weeks, we have people that wake up day after, and we feel bad because it's in the system. We can't do much about it. So please make sure you register before that. And with that, we hope to see some of you in our upcoming boot camps, and wish you a great day.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.